first heard about all
Hey,
this?
hold on a second. I just got to say that all of, this Star Trek, and it's been amazing. But when I come here and I see the enthusiasm in this room, it is absolutely mind-blowing. And you people are what's really amazing.
Well, I was just saying, so when we first heard about this, and we were sitting here kind of grasping at straws, and we had ideas, David's vision, we shared it all with you. You have to start somewhere, and where did you start? What did you know we had to learn to start making decisions?
Well, first I had to get to know you two guys, and then I had to get to know the company and what it stood for and what it was about. And I realized that there was a shared DNA between LifeWave and Star Trek. A vision of the future, an optimistic future. And I thought I was lucky in my career, and I really have been, but I didn't, meeting you guys was even more amazing.
Oh, come on. Oh, thank you.
It's true. This is like Tony Stark here.
You're not insinuating I'm a superhero, are you?
Yeah, of course I am. He is a superhero,
With my laundry list of character defects, all the mistakes I've made, most of them largely public.
You don't get anywhere unless you make mistakes.
That's true.
Well, let's get into it. So first you had to throw us a few concepts, right?
Yes.
And you said literally like, hey, what about this? What about that? And he just started throwing us some concepts, right?
Yeah,
Do you want something like this, right?
Yeah, you just start throwing things out there and see what kind of reactions you're getting, and then you will put together some conceptual art, just like I would if I was on one of the shows, and gauge your guys' reactions to it.
Oh, this was a great one.
Well, Avengers Headquarters, right?
Yep.
Shit.
Adventures Headquarters. You love that one, right, David?
I do love that one. I have a replica of it in my lab in Florida.
So after you've done this for a little bit, we realized, start designing something, right? Let's get into it. And so you did these relatively detailed sketches before we hired set designers. What do you call the fellows we brought in?
Once we knew what we were going to do, I brought in a couple of set designers that I had worked with on the Orville, the Seth MacFarlane show. That's pretty much like Star Trek. These guys know how to do this stuff better than anybody. They were perfect.
And when you heard about the epic hologram and the fact that David and the company was committed to having some fun with this ability to beam people in, and we told you about that, you had an idea and said, after we learned about the space we were going to go in, right? You said, well, where are we going to design this for? And then you said, I got an idea about a black monolith.
Well, it was just when I saw this, you guys introduced me to this. I said, can we make it black? And they're like, well, of course we can. And I'm like, it made me think of 2001: A Space Odyssey with the monolith. And where the closer you get to the monolith, the smarter you become, and that's kind of what LifeWave is. And also that room with that white void and the black monolith in it, which is very much like the end of 2001 with astronaut Frank Poole. This room is a recreation of that in a way.
Yeah.
We have a wood floor and a ceiling, and also it's a transition into another world. You don't want to just walk from the lobby into a bunch of displays. You want to be brought into another reality.
Right. You kind of have to work your way into stepping into the future, don't you?
Yeah. And we did a bunch of, I did a bunch of conceptual images, which you might say were a false start, but there's no such thing as a false start.
Well, look at it. So here, let me run you through a few. These are just going to kind of cycle through a few of these things. As you start to say, what about this? Should we have a circular area? What would be the nature of the door, right? You started asking questions and showing us things, didn't you?
Yep.
Yeah, this part was incredible because if we go back one
That's very
slide.
early.
It's a movie, David. We can't go back.
Yeah, that's
Let
true.
it cycle through.
That's
Let it
great.
cycle through.
So when we started to seeing this artwork, we were so close to what we thought the representation of the Welcome Center should be. This was the imagery when I first looked at it. I said, oh my God, we're so in the ballpark now on this.
And you know, but then, you know, you're thinking about, now wait a second, these are the coolest looking designs. And me, from my vantage point, I'm thinking, how in the world are we going to make something that looks just like this, right? And going through that process, but you're the designer, you can envision and say, well, yeah, no, we can make it look just like that, right?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, my job on Star Trek or Battlestar Galactica or the Orville is to come up with designs that we can build.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
So I'm always, whatever I'm designing, I try to keep it practical. Of course, I know that you guys had a lot of experience with big screens and backlights and, you know, media stuff like this.
And you combined stuff, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the content, David, right, had to get up on some screens. And that's where David decided to commit to state-of-the-art capabilities on the part of the screens that we installed. I'm not going to tell you how much they cost, but they cost an arm and a leg, and so your experience when you go through the Welcome Center, you're looking almost as if you're looking at reality. The images are so pristine and clear.
And it's always going to come back to the story, right? So it's a blend of, can we tell the story of LifeWave? We use the hologram as an opportunity to welcome people from all over the world in different languages, take them into the tunnel so they can see where LifeWave has been, let them interact with the Welcome Center so they can explore our business opportunity, our products, our culture, and then we give them a look at what's coming into the future.
Exactly. And then, if I'm not mistaken, what comes up next is the concept of we had to build it, right? And we did that in Hollywood. Think about it. All the set designers and all the set construction folks that Doug knows, we pulled that team together and we made it all down in Hollywood. And then, once finished, once we knew everything fit together, once we knew the measurements and everything was going to work, we threw it in trucks and brought it up to Draper, Utah, where it had to be, most of it, hoisted by a crane, take out windows, go inside, drop it in, and then start to construct it. But this whole construction process, you're very familiar with that, aren't you?
Well, yeah, I mean, the beauty of it was that we did it in the San Fernando Valley, which is just minutes from where I live, so I could go to the, you know, scene dock and see what these guys were doing every day, go there with my set designers.
Yeah.
And we can interact, which is what's happening in these pictures here.
You had to verify, right?
Yeah.
You had to look at the materials.
Well, you know, you can have amazing designs that look fantastic, but it can all fall flat in the creation of it, in the physical creation of it. And you never know what's going to happen, but all I can tell you is that the way it all came together, and everybody who was involved with it all the way along was excited about it, and it became, well, actually it turned out better than I thought it would turn out. Yeah, it was really more amazing than I expected it to be.
Think about that.
Yeah, you know, and I have to say, because we were involved, Jim and I, in the design process, you know, through the beginning, so we saw you breathe life into this concept. But even though we were along for the journey the entire way, walking through it for the first time was surreal. I honestly felt like I was in a ship in outer space, and I was like, oh my God, I literally have stepped into this.
Well, you know, the first thing after we went through it the first time, it wasn't complete yet, and I remember I looked at you and I said, well, David got a starship. But honestly, if you don't have the right group of people together, I mean, particularly these two guys, there's another place it can totally fall flat. And when we first met, we were kindred spirits right away, you know?
Absolutely. You know, I should mention that because you're way too humble of a guy, even though you've had these absolutely incredible achievements in your life. But I want to know this man has an incredible heart. As much time as we spent talking about Star Trek, we also spent talking about God and faith and the stories in the Bible. I loved doing that with you, Doug. It was just so great to see that side.
Yeah, we had a conversation going back and forth and emails, and, you know.
And, you know, I want you to share something that you shared when you were here last year, and that is you had so many obstacles in your life. Your parents didn't want you going in
Well, they
this
thought I was
direction.
crazy.
And look what happened to you.
Yeah.
They thought I was out of my mind. I mean, you have to consider that when I was really first getting into this type of thing when I was 11, 12 years old, it wasn't considered hip or cool or even smart. You know, now it's a whole different story.
Isn't it interesting what a parallel? There's always parallels to the network marketing business, right? Where people say, you can't do it, you're not going to be successful. I've never heard of that company. You know, all those things we've talked about over the last couple of days, the negativity, you experienced it too,
Yeah,
and
you
pushed through
have
it.
to take that negativity and turn it into energy
Yeah.
to drive you where it is you want to go. Too often people are criticized and talked down to and they give up. You can't do that. You have to take that energy. Take it. They don't realize that they're giving you energy to create and reach your goal and your dream.
It almost comes a little bit like, I'll show them. Who are they? If someone else can be hugely successful, so can I, and boom, off you went, huh?
And meanwhile, while there were people in his life saying, no, you can't do this, you can't achieve it, you ended up working with Gene Roddenberry.
Well, that's just like totally nuts. And then as a kid, I was watching, when Star Trek premiered in 1966, I was one of the original fans. And when they canceled it after three seasons, I was part of this Save Star Trek committee that kept the show going, you know. And then when I ended up coming to Hollywood to work on a Warren Beatty picture called Dick Tracy, where we did all the makeups there. But I knew that Star Trek The Next Generation was shooting across town. And as soon as Dick Tracy was done, I went over there and I begged Mike West, because I was a makeup artist at the time, I begged him to let me come and work on the show. And he says, well, what are you doing features? Why do you know, Star Trek was where I'm supposed to be. And it's not just because it's, you know, cool, flashy science fiction. It's the philosophy of a better tomorrow, you know.
Exactly, right?
That's what got me so hooked on Star Trek from when I was very young. I saw the first episode of Star Trek that I saw was Arena, and this idea, well, wait a minute, Captain Kirk didn't kill the Gorn, and he's trying to
I
create some
won't
type
kill
of peace with these aliens. But the idea that we could have a future, we're not at war, we're not trying to kill one another, we're working together for the common good, we use technology to feed people, energy is abundant, and we're reaching out to other species.
And of course,
It's a beautiful view of the future.
David, you know, he reflected that philosophy that excited me so much. So I was so excited to come and do this. And wow, thank you, because it turned out amazing. I hope you guys get to go see it.
Now, before we talk about that, and before we kind of show you a 3 or 4 minute teaser film of the Welcome Center that we're talking about, I think we have some time-lapse footage that we should show now that features kind of several areas of the Welcome Center and how they kind of came together over a period of 2 or 3 months. Can we roll that now? Let's get that. Yeah, right. These screens in this large, long room, what a work of art,
A lot of decisions.
right? Doug had his print on every aspect of what you're seeing here. Colors, texture, surfaces, the look, the feel, the screens, all of it. And there's the finished product, right? So then we had to make this area we call a product kiosk area, where we focus on products, it's interactive, and that's what it looks like now.
That was not computer art, that's the actual picture.
Right, exactly.
Well, that's what blew my mind. The reality of it
Yeah.
was so much like the conceptual art, and even better in so many ways.
That's what's hard to believe when you look at the pictures of it, because you think you're looking at computer-generated images, but this is all
Yeah,
real.
it looks like my art.
So when David first talked about stepping into the future, Jim, let's make something that makes people feel like they're stepping into the future. Doug, did we accomplish the goal?
Heck yes.